a revolution, just like Gandhi. Hi, this is Jack Alice, author and spiritual teacher. The topic of my books and DVDs is the most important topic of them all, the sheer magnitude of which scares most people away. They don't want to deal with it. This is how to create the new world from the ashes of the old in times of paradigm shift, like ours today. And how to do this by transforming ourselves. How to do this with the supernatural power of our spirituality. And how to do this by stepping outside of the old paradigm civilized world and embracing a way of living that's different. A way of living in which we reassume complete responsibility for ourselves and for our lives. And a world in which we live sustainably and in harmony with nature, which is a far cry from what we see in our old paradigm world today, built as it is on the foundation of plundering the earth and a dark conspiracy to enslave all of her people. Yes, this is huge. And people don't want to deal with it because they believe that our world is so hopelessly messed up that nobody could do anything about it. And they're right. As far as our old paradigm civilized world is concerned, they're right. This world has done nothing to change the course that it's on in 6,000 years. And it's not about to change now when it's so near its inevitable end. But we're not talking about reforming this world. Einstein once said you cannot solve a problem with the same methods that created that problem to begin with. And that certainly is the case here. The old paradigm world is far too corrupt and far too contaminated to fix from within. And as long as it's in place, it is the single greatest impediment to any meaningful change on any level. But again, we're not talking about reforming it. We're talking about replacing it with something different, something that works. Which leads me to a part of this message that I think usually flies beneath the radar and people don't see it for what it really is, and I don't want that to be the case here. How do we replace this sick, decadent world? Step number one is to learn and to understand how this world really works, as opposed to the brainwashing we receive from the system itself. Our world works very differently behind the scenes than we're led to believe. In fact, our world is controlled by a tiny group of people, or beings, who are perched at the top of the pyramid of power because they own everything. They own the huge national banks that create the money that enslaves us. They own the huge multinational corporations that create the grid that enslaves us, the grid of energy and technology and chemicals that enslaves us. And they own all the systems of information distribution, such as the mainstream media and the internet, which gives them this awesome power to create a world of illusion, which they do. To create a world of illusion that holds most of humanity under its sway. It is this global elite that create all the problems in our world today, which are a logical result, a direct and logical result of their agenda, which again is one of plundering the earth, destroying the environment that humanity needs to survive, and killing anyone who gets in the way. Which leads us to the next step. The old paradigm civilized world is clearly and unquestionably evil. It is the enemy. It's the enemy of freedom, and it's the enemy of living sustainably and in harmony with the earth. Once we learn this, once we know this, it becomes morally and spiritually imperative for us to do something about it. Now, I don't want this to sound more complicated than it might at first. The most powerful thing that we can do to let go, to change this system, is to begin to take steps to let go of it, to begin to take steps to disengage from it. We must stop playing along out of conformity or expediency or both. We must stop feeding this beast our energy, and we must stop supporting it in as many ways as possible. We don't want to be like the Germans in under Hitler in World War II, who did such abhorrent things, and they justified it by saying they were following orders. When enough of us do this, when enough of us let go of this old paradigm system, it will collapse. It cannot hold up without our support. And yes, this would be a revolution. It would be a Gandhi-like revolution in which we change the world without firing a shot. Just imagine in mainstream politics, which is a farce, and which is an integral part of this illusion they create that binds humanity. Just imagine in mainstream politics if people just stopped paying attention because they were too busy doing what we're talking about here, too busy transforming themselves, too busy preparing to create the new world. Just imagine if people stopped watching the presidential debates, stopped even showing up. Just imagine if people stopped voting, which is a way of sanctioning this evil system, saying, I'm in. The effect of this would be huge, and the system would topple like a giant house of cards. An essential feature of this is reassuming complete responsibility for our own lives, as opposed to allowing the system to control us from cradle to grave, which they're more than happy to do. And I don't want this to sound more complicated than it has to either. I talk a lot about this in my books and DVDs. I talk a lot about this process of letting go of the old paradigm. And it doesn't mean everybody has to quit their job, sell their houses, and head for the hills, which actually would be a wonderful thing, but that's not what it means. It means we can start this process of letting go by doing the little things over which we do have control, like changing to a natural diet, like going to natural healers as opposed to mainstream doctors, like homeschooling our children, and the list goes on and on. And it begins with freeing our minds and freeing our spirits and becoming masters of our own destiny again. And it begins by thinking about and beginning to prepare for the time when we are ready to leave the system entirely and launch out on our own. And those of us who launch out on our own, hopefully, will form small, sustainable communities in remote places as far from big cities as possible, which will be the foundation for creating the new world. This is the only way it can be done. As we've seen with the ancient indigenous people of this planet, like the Maya, the Hopi, and virtually all the other Native American tribes. These were people who lived sustainably and who lived in harmony with nature for thousands of years, until Western imperialism wiped them all out. And this is the model we need to follow. It's right there for us. Yes, I realize that the collapse of the old paradigm world would mean terrible chaos, hardship, and death for billions of people around the world, people who depend upon it for their survival. But we have no other choice. We must stop dancing with the devil. Those who cling to this sinking ship will go down with it, which is an important reason why I am guided to transmit this message. I'm telling people to get off the sinking ship, and to do it by reassuming complete responsibility for their own lives. Those who let go of their dependence on the old paradigm system will be far better able to take care of themselves when that system is no longer there. And learning to take care of ourselves again, and learning to live sustainably and in harmony with Mother Earth is the key to everything. It's the key to creating the new world. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to learn more about this, I invite you to visit my website at www.jackalice.com. Alice spelled A-L-L-I-S, jackalice.com. I send blessings. Aho.